Good morning, y'all. Happy Easter. Now I can officially say good afternoon, everyone. Um, Hope everybody's doing well. Hope the Easter Bunny was nice to everybody. And all of the goodies he left were the right kind of goodies, and you didn't find a bunch of little of the wrong kind of raisins. Um, I got a. We started a little bit late because I got easily distracted this morning. I'm going to give an unexpected shout out to the folks at FedEx. I mean, normally they are like the last choice of mine when it comes to delivery companies, and it's just a regional thing here. For some reason, when things get to Portland, Oregon, they disappear. And I mean, for several days slash maybe up to 2 weeks has been my experience. But they actually delivered a day early and on Easter Sunday. So shout out to those guys. I really appreciate it. I got some of the pigments for that I'm going to be using on the Pirate. The resin itself is still on the way, and I've got more pigments coming. Those are supposed to be here tomorrow or Tuesday. I don't remember which. So that's why we started late, is because I walked out the door to come out here and pushed the box with the door. And I was like, oh, hey, okay, all right, we got a package. So let's see here. If you can kind of hang with me until the end, because I'm going to make a channel announcement at the end of today's live Q&A. And nothing is going away from the channel. The channel isn't going to change for most of you, I would say, but I'm going to be adding some stuff. I'll get into that more later. Today's an open Q&A. If you have any questions at all, if you tried to ask a question last week and I didn't get to it, please go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll get to it in due course. Let's see, we've already got a couple of questions out there, and we'll go ahead and get started now. And let's hit this one here from Norm Peterson down in Reno, my old stomping grounds. Says he's cutting a 3-piece dash for a Triumph GT6. Lots of two-sided work. Is there some way to use the same registration holes on the 3 pieces? Yes, there is. And that is to set up now, if you have version 11 and you take advantage of sheets, set up 3 sheets of a identically sized material, and you can copy all of the vectors and the registration holes onto all 3 sheets. Now, if they are 3 different sizes of pieces of material, what you'll have to do is find some common measurements, and you can still copy those vectors over to the 3 sheets so that those registration holes are in the same location on all 3 sheets. The vectors themselves don't really matter, because I understand you have a central dash panel, and then maybe a center console panel, and then a glove box side panel. But if you can find some common measurements in X and Y that will work on all 3 pieces of material, you can set up the 3 different pieces in those 3 sheets to use those same registration holes. Now, what I have always done with my 2-sided designs, with one exception, is I have always done, it just depends on which is the priority. If the top side is the priority, I do all of the top side first. And if the bottom side is the priority, I do all of the bottom side first. Then I focus on the other side. The one exception is those registration holes. As soon as I get those registration dowels located and I get them decided on, I immediately copy those vectors onto the other side so I don't forget to do it. But other than that, I'll design one side, get that design finalized, then work on the other side. So I don't know if that's any help or not, but it is possible as long as you can use measurements that will work for all three sheets to put those registration holes for your dowel locations. Yes, you can do that. It's funny that you mentioned you're working on a Triumph TR6. I don't see him in the chat yet. Maybe he popped in and I missed him. But our buddy Rob Schuster, who has been a guest here on the live Q&As, and who has done some unbelievable work with drums and what have you. One of the first things he did when he got his first CNC built was he made a bunch of dash panels for Triumph TR7/TR8. So you might want to reach out to him and see if he has any tips for you, because he's been there, done that. Agreed, it's a different model, but he might be able to give you some insight as to how to take care of that real thin material mounting and some design considerations that maybe you might want to think about. I don't think he did them two-sided, but I could be wrong there. But I would reach out to Rob Schuster, and I'll put a link to his channel down on the description of this video as soon as we're done live. So you have a link to go over. Or if you're already subscribed to him, then you know how to get to him. I do plan on doing a couple of videos that will be double-sided, two-sided projects. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and incorporate that idea into that video to where I can I'll make more than one of the same project. And then when I actually go to calculate tool paths, I can use different sheets that use the same registration holes. That's a good point. So let me go ahead and make a note of that. Norm says, great help, have wanted to try using sheets. I've got to tell you, Norm, when they first started talking about the introduction of sheets with the software, I really didn't know that I would use them. I thought, okay, that's cool, but I don't really use different materials. So I don't know when I would use that. And I've got to tell you, I tried it and it's addictive. That has really, really become a time saver, in that if you're doing a project that encompasses multiple parts, well, like this T-shelf, it was all the same material, but I had two different thicknesses of material and I was going to be gluing up separate panels. It wasn't just one piece that I could put all the vectors on and cut it all out if I was using plywood, for example. But because I had glued up different panels, I was able to use sheets to size all those different panels and put it all in the same file. I didn't have 3 or 4 different files that I had to keep in a folder to get that one project done. So they really has come in handy. And I see RB Woodwork here says, I use sheets now more than layers. It's about a 50-50 thing with me. I still use layers, and we'll get into that when I get into the pirate video. It might be next week. It just depends on how fast I get all these pigments and the resin here. But it's been about 50-50 on whether I use layers or sheets. But the sheets is a really cool option. And I'm now that I've used it, I'm actually glad that they included it. So let's see here. It's Joy B says, yesterday I assembled my Onefinity Journeyman and made my first cut across the spoil board. Congratulations. Then made a second cut and killed my bit. Ouch. Now by killed, I don't know if you mean you broke the bit or burned it up or what have you. But if it broke, let me tell you, there's 3 reasons why bits break. One is you're either cutting too deep per pass, so your pass depth is set you're cutting too deep, or you're trying to cut too fast, or a combination of the two. Generally speaking, when you're first getting going, what I try to do is that, especially if I've never used a bit before, is I will set the pass depth. I set it shallow, and I go no deeper than 1/2 of the bit's cutting diameter, with a couple of caveats on that. For instance, if it's a 1/4 inch end mill or a 6mm end mill, I won't go any deeper than 1/2 of that cutting diameter. So that would be 3mm in the case of a 6mm end mill, or 1/8 of an inch in the case of a 1/4 inch end mill. So that takes a little bit of stress off of that bit. Next, I use conservative feed rates until I learn that bit and learn what it'll do. Now, generally, my conservative feed rate consists of 40 inches per minute. And that's just so I can watch and see how the bit's cutting. Now, I use Mach 3, that's my controller software, and I can speed up or slow down the feed rate while it's cutting. So I'll start at like 40 inches per minute, but by the time we get to the end of the cut, I may be running at 120. But I want to see how that bit's cutting, how it's handling the material, and then I can start increasing that feed rate until I start to get bit chatter. And once you hear bit chatter, you will know exactly what it is. When I start to get chatter, then I'll back it down until that chatter goes away. So, and then make note of that feed rate, and that's where I start the next time I use that bit. So I may start at 40 inches per minute, but if I get through the project and I'm at 80 inches per minute, I'll go back in and I'll change that feed rate in the tool database, and I'll start at 80 from then on. So it's just kind of learning the bit and learning its limitations. Now, in the case of something like I don't have it here, you would think I would learn. It's way over there. On something like the 1.25" bit that I use for surfacing, it's an 1.25" cutting diameter. That doesn't mean that I can use a 7 or a 5/8 inch cutting depth, because that's 1/2 of an 1.25". I still go by, at that time, I go by 1/2 of the shank's diameter. So in my case, it's a 1/4 inch shank, no more than 1/8 of an inch deep, because that's what's going to break. It's not that big cutter head that's going to break. It's going to be the shank if I get too much pressure on it. So it depends on the end mill. It depends on what the use is. But generally speaking, what you're looking at if you break an end mill is you're either trying to run it too fast, you're trying to cut too deep, or a combination of the two. So it happens, believe me. And there are some people who will say, well, if you're not breaking bits, you're not learning anything. And I tend to say that's a bunch of, let's say, bovine scat, because I can break bits all day long and never learn a thing. You have to analyze what is going on and what would cause the bit to break. So look for those three things. Now, none of that takes into account possibility of running into a clamp or running into a screw or something like that. Be careful with using speed and feed calculators simply because those are designed for industrial machines. And industrial machines are capable of doing things that your CNC and my CNC just won't do. It's a good kind of a frame of reference, but even they will say these are starting points. Your mileage may vary. Let's see, bit companies like Amana, Tools Today, Whiteside, they can give suggested speeds and feed rates. But again, they all have a disclaimer right there. These are designed for industrial machines that can handle these feeds and speeds. Your machine may not be able to do it. So in the case of me, I can't cut at 300 inches per minute. So I have to back that down and then base it on a reasonable feed rate for my machine. And it's simply because of the lead screw design. It uses a 5-start lead screw. And at max RPM, that stepper cannot move that axis at more than 200 inches per minute. It just can't. So there's a balancing act you have to play with. So here's hoping that helps you out. Let's see here. Looking at some other comment. Okay, yes, Roger the Tinker, you have a good point there. Another one is the bit is not tight enough. Yes, you need to make sure that you have enough bit up in that collet. Now, look on the shank of your bit. And again, I wish I had one here. I don't have one. You may see a mark on the shank of that bit that looks like the letter K. What that K actually is it's a line with an arrowhead pointing up to that line. That's how much of that bit shank you need to be putting into the collet at a minimum. The shank needs to go beyond what looks like that letter K. And it shouldn't come up through the back of the collet, through the top of the collet, but you should be putting quite a bit of that shank in there. I did a video on that, and I just wrote a note to myself to post a link to that down in the description of this video as soon as we're finished. But yes, bury that, get quite a bit of that shank up there into that collet and then tighten it down snugly. Now, that doesn't mean you have to, put every muscle you own into it. Just make sure that is wrench tight. I mean, it needs to be tightened up. Let's see here. Russell Faraday, too many RPM for not enough millimeters per minute will break a bit too. My first 6 millimeter ran mill got about 100 millimeters before it got so hot it pinged. We live and learn. Yes. If you're, again, it's a balancing act. So I need to add number 4. If you're traveling too slow for your depth of cut, that can build up heat and cause it to break. I've not experienced that personally. Well, actually, I've never broken a bit while cutting. I've broken a bit just taking it out of the package and dropped it on a concrete floor, but I've never broken a bit while cutting because I know to start conservative and work my way up. I'm sure I've come close a time or two because I've had some pretty wicked chatter and then was able to slow it down. But heat is the enemy for sure. Let's see here. Okay. Alrighty. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see now. Bob Frail is asking, looking to make a house sign using an epoxy inlay. Can anyone recommend something that I can fill the numbers with and have it to be reflective enough to see from the road? And I've seen, Rob, that you're getting some recommendations down in the comments here in the chat. And most folks are talking about using glass beads. I've never used them. Yeah, John says for reflectivity, you need to add glass beads. Amazon was his source. And then further down, they said, note that you don't mix in the beads, add them to the top when it's still sticky. The glass will transmit the underlying color. Okay, that's what I thought, was that you let it start to tack up, let it, as it starts to cure, you come in and sprinkle it before it dries to the point to where it's no longer tacky. And then sprinkle them in. And then what do? Turn it upside down and shake off the excess after it has cured. But that's something that I hadn't considered. But I knew they used glass beads. I just had never done it. And I'd never seen it done. So, but that's intriguing. Let's see. Okay. Jim Brown says on Onefinity CNC software, you cannot change the feed and speed during the carve. You have to do it in the toolpath. Okay. Pro tip, y'all, all you Onefinity users, start asking for that. Start asking for that. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, believe me. And if enough of you people reach out to Onefinity support, they will add it. They'll add the ability to increase or decrease the feed rate on the fly, as they say. So start asking for it today. It might not happen until the next update of the software, but the more often you start asking for it, the more they're going to pay attention. And the more people that ask for it, the more they're going to pay attention to it. But that is I use that all the time. That is a handy thing to have, because different materials react differently to different feed rates and different bits. I mean, I've had pieces of maple that were slightly different densities within the same board, and I've had to find a happy medium feed rate to accommodate that one specific piece of material. It happens. This is not like machining metal where everything is the same density all the way through. Wood is a natural thing, and it does what it wants, whether you want it to or not. So, let's see. Marvin May says, can you use sheets for stacked text? I don't know why you would want to. The only reason I could think of for using sheets for stacked text would be if you were going to, let's say, you're cutting a maple stacked text sign, but then you cut the top text out of walnut and then apply it. Then I could see doing it then. But other than that, I can't see using sheets for stacked text, because the whole point of using the layers for stacked text is because they're all going to be cut into the same piece. And the only reason you're using the layers is so you can weld the bottom text vectors and then cut them as on a separate carve from the top. Well, actually, no, think back. Yes, it's mainly for the welding process and then cutting them in different tool paths. So I don't think sheets would benefit for stacked text. Yeah, the layers is the way to go. So Let me get back over here to where you guys are chatting. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Okay, alrighty. Bob Heltebridle, poster of all the funny stuff, rude, crude, and socially unacceptable, says, I see something you're over your shoulder in the glue up phase. Yeah, right here. I got some plywood panels I'm gluing up. That'll be my next video on the other channel. For those of you who have subscribed over on Mark's other channel, which is clever title if you ask me, you know that I made the clamp racks last week and posted a video about that. The next video to go on that channel, whenever I get it done, is going to be I'm making a drop down desktop to move this station right here. I'm moving this over to that corner of the shop, and that is going to be the desktop. So I've got some plywood glued up. I had to dowel joint together. So that's what that is, Bob. And more on that when we get to that'll be on my other channel. And if I haven't already, I'll put a link to that channel down in the description of this video, as soon as we're done live here. So, and that channel is just there for my non-CNC projects. It may have something peripherally to do with the CNC, but it's just regular woodworking. I mean, all this was done on the table saw and the chop saw, and then glued it up and mounted it to the wall. But it got all those clamps up off of the floor out of my way. And jury's still out on whether I'm going to paint them or not, but it's too cold to paint here anyway. So, and I don't want to stink up the joint. So let's see here. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any more questions. You guys out already? Wow. And it was a good tip on the glass beads. Thank you for that, John. Let's see. Nope, no more questions. You guys are out of questions already? Well, then I'll go ahead and I'll make the channel announcement now. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. We do have some. But first, Norm Peterson, not $15 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. I really, really appreciate that. Not to be used for Easter candy, but they're having the sales now. Everything Easter went on sale today for at least 50% off. I could get double my pleasure, double my fun. Come on, man. Thank you very much, Norm. You guys are the best. Thank you. Let's see here. Bernie Jensen wants to know, is there other ways to rotate your job besides grabbing the corner to rotate your job? Okay. Rotating a vector within the job, because that's a little bit different. Let me switch over here to Aspire, and we will find out. Come on, Mark. There we go. We will share screen and go over here into Aspire. And let's see, I'll put up a couple of vectors here. They don't really mean much of anything, but we'll get them in odd locations, and just so we can differentiate which direction they are facing. And there we go. Okay. So basically what you're saying is, if you want to rotate this all 90 degrees, is there another way of doing this that without using these handles down here? There are a couple of ways of doing this, Bernie. One is using the rotate selected objects over here under transform objects, and you'll come into this form right here, and you can do a absolute rotation or a relative rotation. Now, what I mean is if we go with an absolute rotation, you see this little circle right here. This is the rotation center. If I rotate 90 degrees now, it's going to rotate around this center. If I want it to do that, because this is the center of all these vectors, it has figured out where all they are, and that's the center. If I want it to do that, then I'll just come over here and I'll type in 90 degrees, click apply, and it rotated everything around that center. Now, I'll do Control Z to undo that. If I don't want it to rotate around this center, if I want it to, let me close it and do it again here. If I want it to rotate around the center of the project where my XY 0 is down here, I can come to the center of that, and you see my cursor turns into a crosshair. I can drag that center down here. And now it's going to rotate around the XY 0. Click apply. Come on. Oh, I got to enter 90 degrees, dummy. Click apply, and it rotates around this center. Okay. Control Z. Now that's one way of doing it. The other way is, again, using the corner handle here. And another way is a cheat. And that's to use the keyboard shortcut. You're going to go to, you can't see this here because it's down on my keyboard. Go to the numbers up above the letter buttons on your keyboard, not the number pad, but the numbers up above the letters on your keyboard. If you tap 9, they all rotate 45 degrees. Every time you hit 9, it'll rotate 45 degrees counterclockwise. If I want to rotate it clockwise, tap the number 0, and it'll rotate clockwise. So that's a quick cheat. But if you look, it rotates it around the center of all of the vectors. So that's two ways of rotating the project vectors out here, either using the keyboard shortcuts or using the rotate selected objects, or you could use the little squares on the outside. So I hope that answers your question there, Bernie, and hope it helps you out. Let's see. RB Woodwork is saying, have you considered using French cleats for hanging your tools? Yes, I have thought about it. I'm not decided on that yet. There's a lot of things in flux here, and even more so is coming. And later this summer, you'll know why. So I felt safe in going ahead and mounting these clamp racks back here on the wall because that's not going to change. But some other things are going to be changing here. I've got some stuff in here temporarily that's going to be going away. And so before I start dedicating tool racks and what have you, I mean, just like I didn't realize how close this would be to the CNC router sitting at this desk. And I just simply put need more room here. And I can't because my door is right here. So that's why I'm moving this computer over against that wall to free up space here, because the CNC router computer doesn't take up that much room. But having two computers here with two mice, two keyboards, and 1, 2, 3 monitors, it's just too crowded right here. So I've got to move things around, and I don't want to make that mistake again. So before I start dedicating space to certain tools, I want to get things settled. But yes, I have considered French cleats. So, okay, Brooks Martin saying, when importing an STL with undercuts, do I need to slice the model and modify the other side? I'm going to refer you to Michael Mazalik, but my initial reaction would be yes, because those undercuts are not going to they're not going to be included after the import, because the software will not create undercuts. Now, something I have not explored yet, I've not used it, is the ability to import 3D models in sections. So when you're in the import process, it'll do that slicing and import all of those different parts so that you can carve them all from the surface and then cut them out and put them together. But I have not explored that yet. So I don't know how well that works or how well it doesn't. I do know that Michael Mazalik has done things like that. So he would be the go-to source for me anyway. That's who I would ask about it. But again, that's another thing I'm going to be doing a little bit later on. So, okay, let's see. Jim Brown wants to know, can you show us how to put dowel holes in the spoil board for two-sided carving? I have done a couple of different projects with two-sided carving, and I put them in a playlist, and I showed this in both of those series. So I will put a link. Let's see. I just wrote a note to myself. I will put a link to the playlist for that series down in the description of video as soon as we go live. I have demonstrated that on 2 different projects, and both of those I use the exact same method, but I go through it in both of those series. And both of them are 2-part series, so it's not like you're going to have a 60 video playlist. It's, I think, 4 videos at the max. So, but I will I'll post a link to that as soon as we're done live here. Let's see here now. Daniel Thompson wants to know, can you rotate the direction of the wood grain on your project background? No, you can't. But what you can do is, Vectric has a tutorial on this. I will find it. Let's see, grain direction. They have a video on this. Where they show you where those image files for the preview. Let me go over here into Aspire. We'll share screen. Okay. And what we're talking about is is that preview? That's preview. We're talking about in the 3D view. Come on, slow laptop. There you go. We're talking about in the 3D preview over here. The grain direction, these are actually image files. And the Vectric tutorial will show you where these image files are stored. So you can copy this image and in your software, rotate the image so that instead of the grain being vertical like on this piece, it'll be horizontal, and then save it as another name. So you could save it, you take that copy and call it, for instance, and this would be maple horizontal, and rotate the image, and then Vectric will recognize that as a horizontal, as a separate picture, a separate image. Excuse me. And we'll load that as a material within your material list over here. you know, it will add that. So if I made, this is Canadian maple, if I said Canadian maple horizontal, it would add that. So I would have the two different Canadian maples here. The main reason I'm not showing it now is because I don't remember where that folder is. Mike Mazalik says the images are in the application data folder. Okay. What I will do is I will find that tutorial and I'll post a link to it in this video as soon as we're finished. I could hunt for them right now, but it's very simple to do. Very simple to do. But yeah, they're kept as separate image files. You just have to modify that image. And you can also import more. For instance, if you want to use zebra wood, they obviously don't have zebra wood here. You can add a new texture. You can add a new file. So you could take a picture of whatever material you'd like and then import that in. So, and that's explained in that tutorial as well. I will find that and go ahead and put a link to it in the description of this video as soon as we're done. And thank you, Michael. I see they're in the application data folder. Let's see here. Okay, that I had to find you, Mike. I'm sorry. Mike Ricard wants to know, last week you said you weren't a fan of using polyurethane. It's not my favorite. It does its job. What would be your favorite? I'm using maple. It depends on what the project is. Now, I'm normally not a fan of polyurethane, especially in anything I'm going to hold, because I just don't like the feel of it. But it does have its place. If it's something I'm going to hold and it's going to be handled a lot, I'm a big fan of a hand-rubbed oil finish. In fact, my go-to is True Oil rifle stock finish because the stuff is just about bulletproof. It's pretty labor intensive because I like to build up 5 or 6 coats. But to me, the stuff has a glow to it that is just absolutely gorgeous. If it's not going to be handled a lot, if it's just going to be a wall hanger, my go-to is either shellac or lacquer. I prefer both of those, mainly for the same reason. They dry a lot quicker and I can recoat a lot faster. My main problem with urethane, again, is the feel, but also the fact that if I spray, I have to give it 3 days before I can sand it and give it a final top coat because it's got to off gas. If I don't, any gases that are escaping from those layers underneath are going to get trapped by that new layer of polyurethane I sprayed, and you're going to get white bubbles. If you look at the can, I don't have one right here handy. It's in the paint locker. If you look at the can, it'll say recoat within 2 hours. If you can't, wait 72 hours before sanding and recoating. And 2 hours isn't cured enough to do the final sand and then flow my final top coat. So it's mainly because of that, mainly because I can sand and I can sand and recoat a lot faster if I'm using lacquer or the shellac. Shellac I love because every coat you put on actually kind of melts into the previous coat and just keeps building up layers. Any of you folks who have ever done French polishing, you know what I mean. That can be very labor intensive. But the excuse me. I like the feel. I like the glow of shellac, and shellac is very forgiving, very forgiving. So it just depends on what the project is. Now, if it's an outdoor project, this is just my opinion, and some of you may disagree. I have yet to find a good outdoor clear coat finish. I personally know a couple of people who use automotive clear coats. There are problems inherent with that, so I'm not recommending it. But if it's going to be out in the weather, just know that it's going to need regular maintenance. It's going to have to be sanded and recoated every year or two, maybe 3. And I've been running a test for the last 3.5 years, maybe coming up on 4 years now, on a project I made for my wife back then. And I'm going to take it down off the fence. I made a piece of fence art for her that I clear coated. And I'm going to take it down and do a review on that. It's nothing bad to say about the company or the product, just that it doesn't work. It's not a cure-all. So Ray Dixon says you have to let enamel off gas a day or so. Also, I use enamel for outdoor use. For outdoor use, what I do, I just go down to Lowe's, Home Depot, or the Sherwin-Williams store, and I buy outdoor exterior paint, house paint. Now, the problem with that is the smallest container you can get is a quart. So you have to buy it in quarts. I wish they would sell sample pots of exterior paint, but they only sell sample pots of interior latex. So if you don't mind buying a quart, I just use latex exterior house paint. I figure if it's guaranteed for 25 years, that's good enough. So, and it's worked fine for me. And I've used it on some interior projects as well. So, RB Woodwork says, I have barn boards together, images to show what a sign would look like for end results. And it does work. It works very well. So, let's see. Russell Faraday says, I've just done a big 3-slice project with locating dowels for assembly, but I don't know if I could communicate how it's done, realizing how hard tutorials can be to produce. Having never met you, Russell, I don't know how you are. I'm a gregarious guy. I can talk to anybody about anything. I've had some very meaningful conversations standing in the checkout line at the grocery store. So, what I do, the way I do my videos, and I know they're long, they're dry, and they're boring as heck, but I just sit down in front of the mic. Nothing is scripted, and I just imagine somebody sitting next to me, and I'm trying to tell them what I'm doing as I'm doing it. And that's it. So if you can imagine that in your mind, son, daughter, cousin, next door neighbor, whoever, best friend, worst enemy, just picture somebody sitting next to you as if they were trying to figure out what you're doing, and talk as if you're trying to explain to them what you're doing as you do it. And that's helped me a lot. Let's see. B. Todd Cox says, at Home Depot near me, you can get exterior latex samples in pint size. Wow, that's odd because I've yet to find them. Even the paint stores, be it PPG or Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore, even they don't have exterior latex samples in pint size. Ray Dixon says, that works if you don't need it clear. You're absolutely right. And the perfect clear I haven't found it yet. If you know of the perfect clear, please let me know. Let's see. Sound like my wife talking to anyone at any time restroom. Well, it's hard to stand shoulder to shoulder with a guy and not speak. Okay, let's see. Vern Eater says, I had a power outage halfway through a rotary project and lost my place in the program. Ouch. Is there a way to start from where it left off before the power outage? I use vCarve and Mach 3. In Mach 3, you have the luxury of the run from here button. Let me see. Do I have Mach 3 on this computer? I don't know if I do. Not anymore. One of the channel changes is I'll be getting rid of this weak and squeaky laptop and going with a desktop computer. That's why I'm moving the desk, is to make room for that. I don't have Mach 3 on this computer. The hard part is going to be finding your X, Y, and Z zero. If you can get beyond that and you have found your X, Y, and Z zero and you're sure of that, you can load the G code and scroll down and watch the toolpath screen off to the side. Scroll down the G code and click on occasion. That drawing of the toolpath will show you where the tool is, where in the G code that tool is. And when you get to somewhere close, it doesn't have to be perfect. When you get somewhere close to where that is, make a note of that line number and write down which line of G code that is. And fire up your spindle, your router, whatever it is. Make sure you've got your X, Y, and Z zero set. And hit run from here. It will bring up a warning screen and saying that it's getting ready to move to that point. Make sure everything's out of the way. Click OK. It'll move to that point in X and Y. From there, you'll have to hit cycle start and it will start running from that line number. Okay? So yes, it can be done, but the hard part is relocating your X, Y, and Z zero. That's the difficult part. Now, on my rotary axis, finding the Y zero is very easy because I position it over my rotary axis, then my Y gets disconnected. So Y doesn't change. It's simply X and Z. But you can scroll through that G code and watch that diagram off to the right and see when that bit gets to where it left off. Make a note of that line number. And the reason I say make a note of that line number is because if you hit the wrong button, it'll go back up to the top. But then you can go back down to that line, enter the line number, and it'll run from there. So hope that answers that question. Let's see. Okay, looks like we are down to the end. And good luck with that, by the way, Vern. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt many times. I don't know why I was still sharing Aspire, but hey, I was. Let me go ahead and make a channel announcement. And this is one that I talked to you about before, but I hadn't made a decision. I have since made the decision. And what I am going to do starting May 1st is I am going to activate my channel memberships. Now, if you don't know what that is, channel memberships are a way for subscribers to join, become a member of the channel. And there are 2 levels with 2 different fees, whichever you want to use. This is fee-based. And you'll be getting some perks as a result of becoming channel members. It is a recurring monthly thing. And the number one perk that I'm going to be doing for all levels is an additional members only live stream. Now, this is content that is going to be made up by you folks. I'm going to be able to spend a lot more time focused in on your issues and what you're doing. I will have the opportunity to invite you, channel members, onto the live stream, onto the panel. I can have up to 10 people with me. That's going to be something to remember. I can have up to 10 people with me on the panel, and we can discuss your issues. You can share your screen, and I can help you through issues if you're having them. Now, nothing else is going to change about my channel. I'll still continue to put out the free content. I'll still continue to do the Sunday live streams after I've done that content, and we'll still do live Q&As. That is not going to change at all. In fact, I hope to add to that as well. But I've had a number of people ask me, and I get enough requests that I think adding a second live stream for members only, for people who are serious about this, is a good benefit for y'all. This would not be timed. I try to keep these live streams at an hour, and I go all the time. I go over. I'm doing it right now. These would not be timed. We could go an hour. We could go 4 hours. It's entirely up to you guys. But this is a way to get a little bit more individual help with certain projects. And as I say, I can invite people on to the panel, be with me here, and we can work through various tips, techniques, what have you. I'm going to be doing, again, there'll be 2 membership levels. One will be $4.99 per month. And the other would be $9.99 per month. And it's just another way for you to support the channel and help fund what I'm doing here, and get a little bit more individualized attention that I just simply can't afford to do now, because it's going to be for members, and because it's going to be kind of more individualized. I have to work with your schedule as well as mine. And I understand people work for a living. I'm retired. I don't. It's a matter of trying to figure out when you're available, as well as when I'm available. And the best time I have come up with would be Monday evenings at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. Now, I do want your input. I do value your input. So if that works for you, that's what we'll do. If it doesn't work, it's just going to have to be on a majority rules type of a thing. These channel memberships will start again May 1st, and the first Monday live stream will be May 2nd. And if I have one member, then it'll be you and me, kid. If I have 20, remember, I can only get 10 people with me on the panel. So, yes, I am the walrus. Cuckoo, cuckoo. So, other than that, have a good day, bruh. Alrighty, let's see. Again, I'm not taking anything else away from, I'm not taking anything at all away from the channel. Nothing will disappear. Nothing is going behind a paywall. I've had people asking me, well, will I do one-on-one training? I don't have time. You don't have time. Believe me. It's basically, this would allow me to clear some time. And I'll be honest with you, Monday nights is when my wife goes to band practice, so we won't have bagpipes. Let's see. Malcolm Temporal wants to know, do I have a simple way of sowing? Sowing what? Sowing the seeds of love? We're getting silly. It's time to say goodbye. Let's see. Y'all have a happy Easter the rest of your day. I know my wife is in there furiously baking and getting ready to have a big Easter dinner. Hope you have a happy Sunday. I hope I hope you get to spend some time with friends and family, and just be thankful for what and who we have in our lives. So easy to take for granted nowadays. Um, just sometimes we need to slow down. And okay, here's what it is. You have a simple way of showing. Um, that's an error message, the 126663 error message. That is fatal. You get the 126663 when you try to open a file that was created on let's say an illegitimate copy of the software. Whoever made that file will be the only one who will be able to open it. That was not made on a legitimate copy of the software. If you bought your software through eBay, congratulations, you own pirated software. I cannot help you, and I won't help you. I have a very strict zero tolerance policy on pirated software. Nobody can help you because it's not possible. That file was created on illegitimate software, and the only person who can open it is the person who made it. So, thank you everybody for joining me and taking time out of your Easter Sunday. Try to take the peeps in moderation. I know it's hard, but a little bit of self-control is prudent on a day like today because it's, we're in the warm-up phases for diabetes. So thank you very much for the super chat, Norm. I really do appreciate it. You guys rock. Thank you very much to everybody who has clicked those donate buttons down in the description box below. Look for channel memberships to start in 1st of May. I'm going to get all that set up. I have to record a introduction video for that this week and get it up on my channel. So you may see a post before next Sunday. That's what it'll be. I'm going to detail what goes on with channel memberships. So until then, I'll get all these links posted in the description. There's a lot of them. And y'all take care. Go take care of friends and family. Have a great day. All right. See you next week. Thank you.